Hello and welcome to Record Sports Hotline Live. My name is Daniel Caw. As ever, I'm joined by the one and only Keith Jackson, and we're joined as well, all the way from Celtic Park, by the one and only Michael Gannon. Mick, how's it going?
Yeah, I've finally done it, chaps. I've run away and joined the circus. Look,
Mick Gannon's big top.
I've been threatening to do it for years. I've finally gone and joined the circus.
That's perfect. You can use your leotard.
It is exactly. So it's all been gearing up towards it. I'm practicing my trapeze act and all that. This is actually Celtic's Champions League media marquee. We do the media stuff in for these big Champions League nights. The heating's on, I've been told, but it doesn't feel very warm in here just now.
I've never felt heating in there in my life, man.
No, it's something. Keith will tell you. Sometimes when the wind's blowing this place, you feel like Dorothy and Wizard of Oz. Things would take off, like halfway down London Road. But thankfully, it's not much wind tonight. We're all right. Just pretty relaxed. But
Storm Ewan's on its way in, but I think you're safe for the next 24 hours, Michael. You'll be fine, mate.
Yeah, should be all right. So yeah, I just at the Celtic and press conference this afternoon. And obviously, the young boys won as well tomorrow night.
What's the vibe?
Celtic seem pretty chilled out. I mean, it's obviously I think this is the biggest game of the season for Celtic.
Yeah,
by a good distance. This is so important that they have to get progress in this group. Brendan Rodgers in good form, doesn't seem particularly stressed. He touched on things like he usually touches on these things, the history of this competition in Celtic, and the need for the fans to be on board for the 90 minutes. Just he talked about the maturity his team is showing this campaign, responding to the Dortmund setback to go and getting results against Atalanta, Leipzig, these kind of things. Obviously there's no injury problems. James Forrest's the only one that's going to be missing, which is a big bonus at this stage after a kind of pretty brutal run of games for Celtic. So they've got a full
bit harsh on James Forrest.
Well, yes, he's the only one. I mean, I think James would be quite handy actually for Celtic to spell. But after a run of 9 games, 27 days, to come through that with just one guy out is pretty good going. For me, I think. I mean, Dyson Maeda and Nicholas Kuhn being fit is the absolute be-all and end-all. Because they two are the ones that have been relied on so much this season and will be again. Interesting. Then with the Swiss press conference as well, which is they're a different situation. Obviously, bottom of the group, 0 points, nil points.
So what are they saying their motivation is, Michael?
Well, listen, I asked the manager, I said, how much is pride going to be your motivating factor? And he says, yes, exactly it. He says, we're bottom of the league with 0 points. Talk about coefficients and all that stuff, but these guys have got pride and want to restore their kind of reputation a wee bit. So yeah, that is a factor.
Is it not worth a couple of million euros as well?
There is that as well. Listen, he's the manager's only in the job. His first game was at the weekend. The goal was draw against team at the bottom league.
What was the name of them again, Mick?
Winterturn. My Flemish is it Flemish you speak in Switzerland? French and German and Flemish is Belgian, isn't it?
I thought that was
good. So he's not a great start, but I think it's the third manager in less than a year, isn't it? I've been churning out a few gaffers of late, young boys. Having won the league last year by 12 points, to this year they're sitting 9th, so they're having a bit of a nightmare. Bottom of the Champions League, 9th in their own league. It's a kind of fresh start on the new manager. I've been interested to see how he plays, because obviously there's a lot made of the way they played in the first half of the season. Didn't really work. I think they played with kind of wingers, 4-2-4 almost, and it backfired spectacularly. So I think they'll play that way against Celtic. So it'll be interesting to see how they approach it. But
have you ever been to Bern, Mick?
I don't think so. I've been to Zurich and St. Gallen. I don't think I've been to Bern.
Let me tell you something. I couldn't recommend it more highly, right? Other than the fact that the kind of locals, they need a shot of adrenaline, right? It's Switzerland, and I kind of find that in Switzerland in general. What a beautiful, picturesque, I mean, it is stunning, but it's such a quiet little place, and it just kind of sums up. I think they're coming into something. I know Cedric Eaton, former Rangers player, is part of the squad, which probably sums up why they're sitting where they are in 36th position in the Champions League right now. But
he wasn't the worst, that's for sure.
Listen, this will be a culture shock for these guys, and I know they'll have experience, and I know they've played in decent sized stadiums and against decent sized teams, and they've played in the Champions League. But I genuinely think they're in for a bit of a shock tomorrow night.
Well, a bit like the last time I was in Switzerland, I got a shock when I seen the price of a pint of lager.
Absolutely terrifying.
That was a shock that I got. A culture shock when I got my bar bill. I remember I had a pint of Guinness and I had a meal. It was like fish and all that stuff, and it came out. It was like 40 odd quid, and the pint was about 15 quid. And I thought this is not going to be a wild night, that's for sure. But yeah, I take the point. I think Celtic fans need to be. I think Rodgers has been building up to this. I mean, all the stuff about the wee dig he had the other week about the punters being patient, the kind of little telling off they got. I think it's all building up to this game. Mm-hmm. I think you can't have a repeat of the kind of grumbles like the Bruges game. And he mentioned that night when he had these little whinge about the Dyson Maida cutting back and the fans all groaned. He doesn't want that. I think he wants this place rocking from start to finish to energise his players who will be running on fumes a wee bit after this run. Although he made a point of not saying I don't want to talk about tiredness. I think he doesn't want players to get that in their minds at all. He doesn't want that excuse. But he wants the punters on board. And I think it's all been building up to this. I think all that wee dig he had at the punters a few weeks ago. I think this was in his mind. This game.
We've actually got some VT from Brendan Rodgers and Cal McGregor, which we'll have a look at in a while, Mick. But it was just about getting your sort of opinion down there, how it's feeling. And I think you're absolutely right. I think key to this, and I think you've probably hit the nail on the head, that Brendan Rodgers playing a bit of chess, 5 moves ahead. He wants this place with a fire lit under it for kick-off time tomorrow night. In the finest traditions of Celtic Park on a Champions League night, it needs to be full throttle. Yeah.
He wants to intimidate the opposition and energise his own players. That's what that's about. Isn't it? It's and we've seen it in European nights in here. That can have that effect on players.
Yeah.
They can run through
that. Comes alive. The place comes alive. But the problem is, and I can see his thinking here, because it's not Real Madrid, it's not a Juventus, it's not an AC Milan. When you've got peak Celtic Park experience. Sometimes it can be a little bit more low key, but you'd like to think that the fans will understand the importance of this particular game, the big red circle that's been put around it since the fixtures first dropped off the video printer. And the potential here for Celtic over 90 minutes to achieve something which would be, a real feather in the cap to get through into the knockout phase at the first attempt with one game still to spare. And the fans have got to realise the context of this.
Yeah, I think what Brendan Rodgers is wary of is that the Celtic fans don't always react the best when they're not the underdogs.
Yeah,
if this was a Real Madrid or a Dortmund or Munich, the place would be rocking because they knew they were needed. Whereas in certain games, saw it against Bruges, Celtic fans kind of expected to come up and go out and beat Bruges that night. And the first half was a bit flat in terms of the stands, and it wasn't the best atmospheres that night. And I think that's what he worries about. That Celtic aren't great at being the kind of the top dogs in these kind of games. He wants some underdog mentality. Something actually, it was Dyson Maida, who's not the most chatty guy in the world. Dyson Maida. We spoke to him at the weekend, and he said it. And I think that's what he was trying to say. He says we need to think of this game as weirdly challengers. I think he meant like the underdogs.
Yeah.
And it was something, it was obviously through the translators and all that stuff, so it's not always, but I think that's what he was trying to say, that Celtic are better in this environment when they are the underdogs. Like the Leipzig game, when that was a dangerous, and listen, I know Leipzig have been rotten since then, and they're towards the bottom. At that time, they were...
Celtic effectively killed them in the group, Mick. That was their last chance to...
They were coming to Glasgow to win, to start their campaign. Yeah. And Celtic that night, I thought they were tremendous that night. It's probably the best European performance I've seen for years out of Celtic.
Yeah, agreed.
But the atmosphere was terrific, and the punters knew it was an important game, and it was all that kind of symbiotic relationship that they need for these nights to work. So I don't think they can't be a Billy, big time Charlie. Let's say something else there, a big time Charlie attitude in the stands. Not let myself cancelled again. So they can't have that kind of blasé attitude in the stands.
You've thrown yourself here, haven't you?
I know, a wee bit.
Well, actually, Mick, just before we let you go,
it wasn't been that bad. I've seen a lot worse, probably.
Aye, there has been a lot worse. Rebel here talking about how Brendan praised Kyogo today And I thought that was very telling, some of his comments saying that he's the ideal prototype striker for a Brendan Rodgers side. I thought, given the speculation surrounding Kyogo, that was quite telling.
Aye, but listen, I don't think he's a particular hurry to sell Kyogo. I mean, he's still the best striker at the club by a good stretch. I mean, especially Adamida's not really caught fire this season. I don't think Kyogo's been at his absolute peak either this year, to be honest with you. I think it's been, I said earlier on, I think it's been Kuhn and Maeda have been the ones that are really been the kind of the goal scoring threats really this season. But yeah, listen, Kyogo, especially in these big games as well, there'll be maybe a wee bit more space. This is where he kind of thrives. So he has showed it in Champions League. He scored a couple of goals already. An important player for Celtic. He is. Is he the ideal Rodgers striker? I don't know. I think maybe Luis Suarez might have nicked that one. I don't know. I don't know. Andy Carroll. I don't know if that was schemes. I don't know, but he's definitely his most potent striker, and he's going to be an important guy tomorrow night.
Again, Mick, does it not feed into the same thing? Brendan Rodgers says these things. They're never said by accident. There's always a purpose behind them.
Yeah,
he's wanting the fans on board, and he's maybe just giving Kyogo's ego a little rub and saying, "Look, this is you. This is all about you. This has always been your stage. Just go out there and deliver." I just think I've been saying for a couple of days now. I don't fear this one for Celtic. I think the fans will arrive knowing the importance of the occasion. I think they'll put their energy right into it, and I expect the team to start like that. I expect it to be a synergy from the stands onto the pitch, a high tempo, in their face Celtic performance, the type we've seen where, I think young boys will just, I think they'll find it hard to cope with it, the whole experience, the whole Celtic party experience.
You just think Celtic can get ahead early-ish.
Get the momentum, get the place up.
You think that they'll be up and running. I mean, I said we need to see how young boys approach this. I mean, they might just go gung-ho and go for it because there's nothing to lose. They might use it as a kind of a fitness building exercise. I mean, they're just one game back from a month off. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So they've got the other extreme that Celtic have got. I mean, Celtic have been so busy. They've only kicked the ball for a month and a half. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be I think the first 20 minutes will be really interesting. Does Celtic just get the foot down and go for it and get that early goal? And it might just kind of settle as a contest early doors. Yeah. Or do they kind of feel their way into the game and see what's going to up against them? What I do think though is that you're noticing in Champions League, and maybe I haven't seen it before until this season, is that the teams coming here and away from home are giving Celtic a wee bit more respect, I think, than previous times. Like, I mean, people were critical of the performances against Bruges and the first half against Bruges and against Dinamo Zagreb. Those teams gave Celtic a lot of respect and played quite especially Zagreb. Yeah. For a home team, I know they had injury problems. They were quite negative against Celtic, and I think Celtic were thinking this is not what we expected them to sit that deep and be that compact and that negative. So I think you are seeing teams changing the way. I think the Leipzig game was a bit of a watershed that thing. Oh wait a minute, this mob are pretty dangerous, especially on a counter. So we maybe have to think about some different ways to play against them. So
but Michael, that again, does that not play into Celtic's hands? If that's the way young boys set about this, then that's just like the usual domestic fare for Celtic. They know how to. They know how to get through teams that try and frustrate and try to play the low block against them. I just however way this. If young boys were to go and just go hell for leather, Celtic will pick them off. If young boys sit in, Celtic will find a way of getting through. As long as the energy's right, as long as the atmosphere's right, I just don't see it being a problem for Celtic.
I just think if you're young boys kind of coaching staff, you think, well, when have Celtic kind of had any struggles in the last kind of year or so? And it might be again teams that are trying to pack defences and like we saw it a wee bit. I mean, certain games at certain times, like United managed it before Christmas, didn't they? Just that might be they're also a big physical team as well. Young boys are not. They're big strapping young boys. These guys, they're a big side.
Big boys of Bern.
Big boys of Bern now. Big bruisers. So I just think that might be the way they try and approach it as well, and just try and frustrate a wee bit. But it depends how ambitious they want to be. Do you know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. How they play it might be interesting. But you just got to think Celtic will go and try and impose their own game on them and go for it and get a result. Because I think they need to get a result in this one, don't they, really?
Yeah. Mick, I know you're on the brink of being chucked out the Celtic Park tent.
It's a feeling I'm used to in many establishments, to be honest with you.
No, that's
maybe-
early on in the night.
I think maybe in Switzerland as well, actually. If I couldn't pay that bar bill.
Need to go with the odds. No, thanks very much for joining us on the Hotline Live. We'll let you crack on. And hopefully Celtic will get a result tomorrow night. I guess we'll see.
No worries, chaps. I'm going to go for the juggler.
Oh, my
Yeah.
goodness.
I know.
Cheers, mate.
Yeah.
Oh, Michael Gannon. I do like Mick's dad jokes, to be honest. I do.
Yeah,
Like
yeah. Well, hopefully we'll be speaking to Mick again tomorrow ahead of kick-off.
Yeah.
And then I think you've probably got an announcement that you'll want to tell the folk back home for the next couple of nights. Change of plan.
Yep. So we usually are on at 6 p.m, which we will be honouring Wednesday and Thursday. But very lucky Hotline Live viewers this week will be treated.
Euro specials.
Euro specials, double bills. So 6 p.m. tomorrow and 10 p.m. tomorrow after the full-time whistle. And it's the same on Thursday. So reaction to Celtic, hopefully, into the next round of the Champions League. And Rangers, again, hopefully, getting a result against Man U.
And we're doing that, Daniel, because, you know, this, I know that people might look at the Celtic fixture list and this one against Young Boys, bottom of the table, and be having to try and generate their own excitement levels by realising the context of it and what a victory could mean in the bigger picture. I get that. I get that Rangers are going into a game against Manchester United a couple of days after Ruben Amorim has called them the worst Man United side of all time. But let's get it right. And the reason that you know we want people to come on and comment after the final whistles, these two matches, is these are monumental moments for two Scottish sides.
Yeah.
If they can, you know, this is the first ever extended Champions League group, the first ever extended Europa League group, and we've got a chance of two of our sides over the course of a hectic 24-hour period booking themselves into the playoff stages. Maybe even better than that, who knows? But it's very important. It's real big nights for Scottish football and for Celtic and Rangers. And you know, if you guys want to let off a bit of steam, either way, celebrate, get in touch, make your points, when we'll be here. Late night shift.
Absolutely. Just to go back to Celtic, we've actually got a little bit of footage of Brendan Rodgers and Callum McGregor from earlier on today. And let's hear what they had to say.
Well, it's a great position for us to be in. I think that when we started this journey, we wanted to show that we can compete at this level, and can we go and make the next steps and get into the playoff stage. So we've been able to get ourselves into a really good position with 9 points, and our home form at the level has been really good, and we have that opportunity now to take a big step to get to the playoff.
How much do you lean into that stuff, you know, and use it to inspire the players, and how much does that sometimes cloud just focusing on the job in hand?
What stuff's that?
The incentive, the chance to go through everything that goes along, everything that's at stake. Do you lean into that with the players?
Well, I think the players are aware of it. I think they're not blind to it. They understand the magnitude of the game, but they also understand, you know, that it's about performing. I think that's key. I think key in games like this here is that you play the game and not the occasion. The occasion's absolutely massive for us, but we can only get to where we want to get to by playing to the levels that we've played at, especially at home. So, and that's through our focusing on the performance, and that's what we've talked about over the last few days.
We've tried and failed pretty much most of the time, so it's a big step for the club. Everybody wants to be a part of it, and we've done ever so well so far, but we don't want to be the nearly team. We feel like we've got a team here, profile a player and squad that should be getting success. As players, you want to be in the rhythm, you want to play every 3 or 4 days, so we've had that over the last sort of 2 months. Players have been dipped in and out as well, so there's a freshness there, and I think at the weekend we were very good, especially with the ball. Very, very good, very dangerous. Should have scored more than 2. But the zip and the energy was there from the team, so that fills me with confidence when we go into tomorrow night's game. The players feel good about themselves, and like you said, it's a big game, almost like a sort of shootout type game. So that's good for us. We know where the mentality has to be. We know what's required to get the job done. And now the onus is on us as players to go and deliver that.
We've got plenty of comments coming in, Keith, and I'm about to bring in our transfer guru, the one and only Scott Burns. But before we do, this one caught my eye from William Sloan. I hope Keith is authorising a suitably enhanced rate of pay for you, Daniel, in what is unsocial working hours, at least double time in a day in lieu. Listen, William, I'm no hero, right? I don't want to go on about it, but aye, speak to my agent.
Not all heroes wear capes.
Aye, that's it.
Especially not Argentina home ones. By the way, that's there is, and I include myself in this. We need to be pretty careful with standards here, dress code, etc., etc. I mean, I'm feeling. I think I've let the side down a little bit. I was rushed to come in here today, got the hoodie on, but I mean, you're a grown man wearing a football shirt.
Listen, this is a quality show. We're a football show.
Yeah. Is it? By the way, you see, Le Coq Sportif, the sportswear firm, are no more. They produced the most iconic Argentina home shirt of all time, I think, probably.
Aye, probably.
They're gone. Who else did they have? They had
France at one point, didn't they?
They had France. Do you know they actually had the Italian national side? I'm thinking Italia 90. Italia 90 with Toto Scalacci. And there wasn't they didn't have the actual logo on the shirt, but that was them as well. So yeah,
you've actually hit on. I'm like a football shirt geek. I could talk about this stuff for hours, but sadly we can't.
Well, what was that? Hold on before you go. What was the brilliant French club shirt? Le Coq Sportif. It was green and it had a blue across it.
Was it Saint Etienne?
Saint Etienne. What a great strip that was.
Aye, it was brilliant.
Aye, well, there you go. Yesteryears. Anyway, into current news. Scott Burns, save me from this nostalgia.
Waiting in the wings, the Scottish version.
Tell us some news, Scott.
Of Fabrizio Romano. Scott, how's it going?
I can't believe you're talking about Le Coq Sportif and you've not even mentioned the Great Hibernians kits.
Aye,
that's Frank Sosie.
That's a good shout. Aye, that's a really good shout.
Well, did they win the cup in that in a Le Coq Sportif? No,
I don't think so.
I'm wavering.
What was I going to say? Aye, Scott, obviously you are our transfer guru. We've got lots of comments coming in asking us about various different transfers. Gianni, who I believe is a friend of Keith's. Lennon Miller, better moving to Italy, waste of his career, going to the Old Firm to sit on the bench. Look at Liam Henderson playing in the San Siro the other night instead of away at Dingwall. It's a fair point. Scott, what can you tell us about the latest news?
Says an Italian restaurant owner.
I know.
All I can say is I didn't think Dingwall was all that bad on a Wednesday night.
Aye, that's true.
It's all relative, Scott.
All relatives, did you say?
That's the sort of thing that will get you cancelled.
No.
Obviously, Udinese, Scott, what can you tell us?
There's obviously been a couple of bids in for Lennon Miller from the Italian side.
What are we looking at? What are we looking at in terms of the scale of the package?
Bids about £2.5 million, which, in fairness, the Motherwell chief executive Brian Caldwell has come out today and said, it's miles off it, which is totally understandable. But Udinese, Udinese are owned by the Pozzo family, who also own Watford, and obviously they keep a close eye on the Scottish market. They've done business with Ryan Porteous, and they took Rocco Vata from Celtic in the summer, so it's obviously a market they're active in. But it always seems to me that they try to get the players when they're nearing the end of their contracts, and they try to get them at a sort of cheaper deal. The good thing with Motherwell in this one, Lennon's still got 18 months left in his contract, so Motherwell really are holding all the aces and only have to sell probably if the price is right for them. And there are he's linked with a lot of clubs, you know what I mean? But Udinese are the first one to show their hand.
And do you expect Udinese to come back in again then, Scott? Yeah.
My information is they will come back in. To what level, I don't know, because I would suspect that Motherwell are going to sell. It's going to take a club record sale, and that would be in excess of what they got for David Turnbull. So if you're looking at that figure and what they're currently at, there's a big gap and a big gulf, you know what I mean?
I think Udinese are going to have to double it.
That's what I'm saying. That's the sort of levels you need
Yeah.
to get to before they even get Motherwell probably to the table.
So,
Um,
so what was David Turnbull like? It was he 3.5 million, roughly.
I think it was more than that, was it not? No.
Was it more?
I thought it was touching 4, was it not?
Was it okay?
Add-ons, yeah. I think
So-
it was one more than 5, was it not? Would have been more than 5.
Yeah, with various add-ons.
Yeah.
So while we're talking about Celtic, Scott, if I was Celtic, I'm keeping a close eye on this.
Mhm.
What's happening with Lennon Miller? Are you hearing anything? Do you expect them to get involved in this argument?
I think they are keeping a close eye on it. I mean,
Yeah.
they've obviously got people who've worked with him, like Steve McManus was at Fir Park when he was coming through the ranks. There's a few people at Motherwell at Celtic who know him well. I think they will be keeping an eye on it. But the one thing that might have killed Lennon Miller, surprisingly, would be the emergence of Luke McCowan.
Mm.
He's come in from Dundee. He plays that same position. He's a Scottish one. He's actually made that. He's made a real work there. I know Lennon Miller's younger and a different player, but does that stifle Lennon Miller's chances to play if he goes to Celtic? I mean, look at the Celtic team. If you're Lennon Miller, where does he play?
No, I see your point. To be fair,
You've got Engels, you've got Callum McGregor. You know what I mean? You've got McCowan, you've got Bernardo. Where is he going to play? And that's I think when it comes to Lennon Miller, he's obviously going to be guided by his agent and his dad. His dad's been out on the course. His dad will give him good guidance and tell him what to do. But it always seems to me that if Lennon's going to go, he wants to go somewhere where he can play football regularly. I'm not convinced that he would do that at Celtic at this stage unless they bought him and put him out on loan. You know what I mean?
Well, there are trailblazers, aren't there, for him? There's no shortage of trailblazers. Your Lewis Fergusons and all that, and obviously Scott McTominay now and Billy Gilmore over there. And it's almost like the Italian clubs see young Scottish talent like the new Gucci man bag. Everybody's got to have one, and he could cash in on that. And by the way, if he was to go there, you could see him playing regularly because they've clearly identified him as a guy that could come in and have the same sort of impact as the other Scottish boys. I see your point, Scott, but little birdie tells me that Lennon Miller was quite a big Celtic fan as a kid growing up.
No, yeah, there is that element to it, yeah.
So there would be an emotional pull and a lure there.
See,
and the other thing is that he's moving away from home. If he wants to make that move, maybe he'll still have the family support there.
Yeah. See, just going back to the price. So, do you guys think? What are we talking? Between 7 and 8 million?
No, I think if somebody can trigger a 5, get
more than 5,
close to 5. Get close to 5, and it depends how you structure the deal. Scott knows all about that sort of stuff, add-ons and clauses and various ways of making the money up. But I think if someone can get close or near the ballpark of £5 million, I think Motherwell will do a deal, and I think it'll be a sore one for the Motherwell fans. But I think Motherwell fans, they're realistic. They've known all along that this boy's a bit of a golden goose, and at some point they will have to sell him, and they'll be happy to take the cash. They'll miss him, obviously. Such a good player, such a promising talent. But I think once you get close to in and about the sort of £5 million mark, I think that's time to do business.
Yeah,
I could be wrong, but I don't think Lennon Miller will go in this window. I mean, normally the big money's spent in the summer window.
Well, he's also injured just now, isn't he?
He's injured. He's out for a couple of months. So why get it in? But I mean, there are a lot of clubs looking at him, and as I said, I was told there earlier on that Eintracht Frankfurt are one of them who've been looking at him very closely for several months, and the player model and those close to him are aware of that interest from Eintracht Frankfurt. But if that was to happen, that would be towards the summer. And I think Brian Caldwell even alluded to that on the not to Eintracht Frankfurt, but the fact is that his stats, when you look at it on the analytics for his age, he's one of the. I think he said that he was probably one of the 7 best players in his position in Europe for his age. So that's why these top clubs are now looking at these sort of players. I mean,
speculate to accumulate. It's not. We're not talking kind of lottery winning numbers for these clubs. That's not a lot of money, but if there are analytics and their data is pointing to something special, the potential for something special, they're quite happy to go and take a punt for £5 million and see where it takes them. I'm interested, Scott. I'm really interested to see how this plays out over the course of January. I suspect you may be right. I suspect in the best long-term interest especially joining a club while you've still got a couple of, at least a month or so of rehab in front of you. Not ideal. It might well be in everybody's best interest to hunker down and wait for the summer, but you just feel something's brewing with Lennon Miller, don't you?
There's a lot of people in the comments as well saying maybe Celtic could sign him and loan him back. Do you think it's a realistic prospect?
Like, certainly, I mean, if it was a case of getting regular football, then it'd probably be a good business for Motherwell as well, you know what I mean? But it's what, but going back to the Udinese one, you mean, they were the ones, I think they were all over Lewis Ferguson at the start. Mm-hmm. And then, but the longer it went on, more teams came in, and that's when your Bologna's and that came in at the end. And you can see that happening with Lennon Miller, because, I mean, Udinese and Watford are always trying to get in there at the start to try and get them cheaper. And then when others come in, they low ball, and then they sort of walk away.
Aye. Scott, what else have you got in your transfer sack of goodies?
Transfer sack of goodies. I heard you've been transferred to a different time slot. You're doing 2 slots. You looking for an agent?
You be careful. We'll drag you into this night shift as well, mate.
Night shift? I thought it was a 24/7 shift. 24/7 shift.
We're on call all the time.
It's pretty much becoming that, Scott.
I mean, obviously, people will be the Celtic one. As you know, Celtic are looking for they're desperate for a left winger. The Louis Barry one still ongoing. They've obviously made a bid to Aston Villa last week. I think Aston Villa are reluctant to sell, but we'll wait and see what happens over the next few days, whether that could come to fruition or not. But by all I mean, I didn't know the exact figures, but I seen some reported last week, at the end of last week, after we put the story out about the bid, we were talking about 5 million plus an additional 5 million later on, sort of thing. So that's a fair outlay.
Big number, isn't it?
Fact is, Barry hasn't signed his contract yet, so we'll see what happens in the coming days there. But I mean, Celtic are another one who are heavily into the analytics just now as well. So I mean, they've got quite a few left-sided options on the table, and Jelle Ferb has been out at several grounds in the last few weeks as well. So I would expect movement on that front. And obviously, the other one that Celtic fans are all waiting with bated breath for is Kieran Tierney, whether that's going to happen this month or not. And that'll be very much. I mean, my understanding is that Kieran hasn't signed his pre-contract yet, and if he does move this summer, then the decision will come down to it'll be Arsenal's, if whether they want to let him go this window or whether they keep him until the summer, because they've obviously got a lot of games and European commitments. So,
I get the sense with that one, Scott, that it would suit all parties if they could get a deal done before the end of this window.
I think ideally, probably, I don't know from the Arsenal point of view whether it would suit all parties, but I think probably Celtic and for Kieran Tierney, I think that would be the ideal scenario. But you remember, he's still on a massive wage until the summer, you know what I mean? And it's difficult to walk away from that. Plus, you've also got the fact is that he's still playing for Arsenal. I mean, I know he's coming off the bench, but he's still getting game time, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but they've got Zinchenko sitting there on the bench as well, and Zinchenko's the guy that knocked him out of the team in the first place. So I think Arsenal, I think they'd need to be careful with how they. I don't think they've treated him particularly brilliantly, Kieran Tierney, over the period. So yeah, I know that. Look, he's their employee. He's under contract. They kind of can get to do what they want. But everything I hear about this one, I still believe it's more likely to yeah. Well, I think the pre-contract's definitely going to happen.
Yeah.
I think that moving in January is still more likely than not likely.
The one thing I would be concerned about is the sort of games, the number of games that Arsenal have got, the number of injuries they've got. I mean, and that's just for numbers. That would be my concern from a Celtic point of view, whether it's happening or not. But regardless of it, I would just expect Kieran Tierney to be back at Celtic at one point, whether it's this month or in the summer.
What about Rangers, Scott? Is there anything in the offing there? A lot of punters in the comment section are kind of mention. I know they signed Rafael Fernandez the other day from
Fernandez from Lille. That was the one that was the main budget was for a central defender. That is pretty much gone with this deal. So it's now about moving players out to try and free up budget for this window. And the other one they are working on is Lyle Cameron. I mean, I think there's been discussions with his side of the camp about a potential deal. So
for January, Scott?
No. the
For the
deal
summer.
will be for the summer. I don't see Rangers paying out any more fees in this window unless they move players on.
Mhm.
And a lot of the deals they've already done are loaded towards January anyway. Options with which the obligation to buy or in the summer sort of thing. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So I don't see there being much money to spend at Ibrox unless there's new investment, or as I said, they can get some of the players out, and some of the players they want out are on big wages, and they know the situation as well, and they'll probably want money to leave as well. So
Yeah, and that's
Go on.
it's the same old cycle that they got himself into the summer.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Rabbi Matondo's on over 20 grand a week. He's sitting there. He's well, how long's he been there now? And he's just not contributed.
He's on over
and-
20 grand a week,
And
really?
I say when he's well over 20 grand a week, heading towards 30,
Wow.
and he's not contributing. Kieran Dowell is north of 20 grand a week, not contributing. But
North-
you know,
Sorry,
but you can't blame the boys or
No,
the
no.
agents for that.
Aye.
It was a bad decision by Rangers to hand them these contracts in the first place.
aye,
And if Rangers haven't legally signed a document which says this is what we'll give you, the guys, as Scott said, they're not just going to say, right, okay, I'll go and sign for somebody for 6 grand, 7, 8 grand a week. Why would you do that?
if you're
So
Kieran,
that's the predicament Rangers face. And if they're going to get rid of a Kieran Dowell or a Rabbi Matondo in January, they're going to have to do what they did in the summer, which was pay them up to go.
yeah,
And that's why you end up, you're only banking, what was it, 600 grand or something
aye,
from the sale of 4 or 5 players in the
Gold.
summer window. They're going to have the exact same problem again in January.
If you're Kieran Dowell, with all no disrespect to him at all, as you say, look, whatever, if he can get that money, brilliant, fair play to him. But he's not going to go anywhere if he's on 20 odd grand a week. I mean, and you can't blame him.
The only way that you would be tempted to do that is if you want to go and play football and Rangers say, look, we'll give you whatever, we'll sign you a cheque. Now, from a Rangers perspective, what you don't want to do is pay up the full contract, but you might say, look, we'll pay up half your contract.
Yeah.
And these are really difficult negotiations that Rangers are facing, but they've got themselves into this situation, and now they need to try and find a way out of it. And I think that's going to mean a bit of pain again over this transfer window. Let's see where they are in the summer, but it's far from an ideal set of circumstances, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Scott, is there anything else that
Hearts are going up there.
The Jamestown analytics now seems to have kicked in at Hearts.
The
So-
computer's flying.
Looks like they could win the league next couple of years. Keith, you could be right. But they've obviously
That
signed
was somebody
the
else that
Austrian.
said that.
Oh, right, okay, sorry. Daniel, was that you? Obviously, they've signed the Austrian defender Michael Stenwelder from Narmo today. They completed that move. That's
An Austrian from Sweden, isn't it?
An Austrian from Sweden. Yep, that's when it's come up from the analytics. That's more the sort of transfers I was expecting from the
Yeah.
Tony Bloom's supercomputer. And the next one I believe will be the SK brand midfielder Xander Kartam. £320,000 fee has now been agreed. Brand,
And he's in Norway with SK Brand, yeah.
SK Brand, so he's been given permission to fly from Bergen to Edinburgh, so that's for a medical and to complete that move well. So they're well on the way. Plus, I mean, they're also looking to bring in at least another couple of players, another striking option as well. So, and possibly a winger. So it'll still be busy, I think, in Tynecastle between now and the start of next month, isn't it, when it closes?
this might shock everyone watching at home, but none of us have actually seen any of these boys play regularly. But
That's what the computer's there for.
exactly, and Hearts really needed new boys this month, didn't they?
Definitely, they needed something. Because
Yeah,
it's unacceptable. But you see signs of improvement now, but they now need to put a run of wins together to really get themselves up that table.
But
Yeah.
the whole point, isn't it, Scott, is that they brought in Critchley. The computer identified him as the guy that was, likely to try and get a tune out of them, but he needs transfer windows, and he needs to use those same analytics to get whatever the best version of Hearts looks like. They trust the technology, so this is now the technology in action, and it'll be fascinating. To see the standard of these guys.
Yeah.
I think that's 4 they've signed already.
Yep.
Scott expects at least another 2.
I would say
So-
that too, yeah.
So you're going to have a very different looking Hearts side for the second half of this season, perhaps.
Yeah.
And it's going to be fascinating to see, are these guys the real deal? Have they really cashed in and taken advantage of Brighton's technology and put themselves in a position where under Neil Critchley they can start to move in an upward trajectory and start to lay down a marker. I think what they need to do between now and the end of this season is lay down a marker for next season to say, look, we're going to be involved in 12 months' time.
Yeah. Scott, is there anything else in your wonderful sack of goodies?
I would suspect that Kilmarnock will
Just
move
right.
very soon. I think they'll reinforce very shortly on the next 24 hours. The St Mirren also, Kieran Offord, who the young striker they've taken back from Crusaders on loan. There's been 3 offers. There's 3 offers, like 3 6-figure offers on the table from teams in Northern Ireland, and with substantial sell-ons and add-ons. So that deal could move as well, which would be not a bad bit of business for an academy graduate at St Mirren. So there's that. Hibs have still to kick into action. I know they've not done much yet, but not done anything yet. But there are a number of plates they are spinning, and I would suspect 1 or 2 will drop in the next few days. And Aberdeen have spent heavily, but they are still in the market for a striker, and I think another defender as well, I believe. So there's still quite a bit to be done. Dun United as well. Dun United they made a couple of decent signings in Rory Payton and Lewis Ferreira last night. They're still looking to bring in another defender across the road at Dundee. They're waiting to read the Mexican market again. They're just waiting for a work permit for the winger Victor Lopez from Monterrey. So there's still quite a lot of action to be moving in this window. So it should be good. So hopefully it'll be good.
Dundee are basically becoming the opposite of Donald Trump.
Aye.
The Gulf of side.
The Gulf of America. Aye.
The Gulf of Teesside.
Oh, it's going to be great.
Sorry, can we have that again, Keith?
It's going to be beautiful.
Look, I think on that note, Scott, we'll bid you farewell. Thank you so much for joining us on the Hotline Live. It's always a pleasure. And it's going to be, by all accounts, a frantic end to the January transfer window. So I dare say we'll have you back on soon.
Thanks for having us.
Breaking news with Burnsy.
Cheers, Scott.
All the best.
Just before we finish tonight, Keith, we should maybe mention the Scottish Cup.
Yeah, last night.
Last night, Dundee beat Dundee United. Simon Murray with the first-minute winner.
I think
Brilliant.
he enjoyed it a little bit, didn't he?
I thought it was a brilliant header. Absolutely
Yep.
brilliant header. And
I just mean the whole occasion for Simon Murray. I mean, there's a boy happy at his work. I mean, the amount of energy he expends over the course of 90 minutes, and he could have ran about that part for another 90 minutes at the end of it, going round every corner, applauding every Dundee fan in the place. Loved it. And you've got to feel these are great moments for a guy like that. You know, at this end of his career, back at the club that he grew up supporting. Massive result. I fancied Dundee United to actually to come out on top of that one last night, but you know something, Dundee are really starting to pick up a bit of serious form, aren't they? And I just thought it was a great night for Simon Murray. A great night, obviously, for Tony Docherty. Dundee are moving in a good direction, no doubt about it. Their games recently against Celtic and Rangers would pay testament to that. And yeah, that feels like a vibrant sort of a place right now. Enjoyed the match. It was a lot more blood and thunder than I had been hoping. I think I said to you, a bit of football will probably break out here because I think they're two good sides, but they just get totally caught up in the sort of red meat environment of Derby Day, didn't they? And It was brilliant. You couldn't take your eyes off it. The last 20 minutes or so when United were throwing the kitchen sink to try and get the equaliser, it was just exactly what you're hoping for from the Dundee derby. It's dramatic, fair kind of physical element to it, end to end. Just the way the Dundee derby's meant to be, really.
I think, as Rebel says in the comments there, one of us tipped Dundee to win. I can't get that comment to come down. It seems to be stuck there. We'll just.
Is that what that is? The Dundee away strip from a few years back?
It actually could be. It could be. Obviously the draw for the 5th round was made after the game. The highlight: Scott Brown and Hibs.
Yeah, that'll be an interesting one for Scott Brown.
Do you fancy the chances of giving Hibs a game?
I think Ayr United are going great guns this season. And bear in mind, this is his first full season in the job there. To take Ayr United from kind of potential relegation battle midway through last season to sitting second top in the Championship right now, gathering pace as they head into the second part of the season. Scott Brown's a young manager with a big future, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, look, everybody will have their own opinion as to whether or not he could have used his name a little bit more to go into a job higher up the ladder than he did either at Fleetwood or now Ayr United. But do you know something? I quite admire him for it. I think that he likes getting his sleeves rolled up. I think that he likes doing the dirty parts of running a football club where you're not lifted and laid and looked after, and you've not got a big department of sports scientists, and you know you've actually, as the manager, you've got to learn your trade, and then you learn all aspects at a club like that, as opposed to going into a club where you're sort of wrapped a little bit in cotton wool and you don't actually need to bother with that side of it or this side of it. Scott Brown will be out there putting out the cones.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a great education for him. But there's really positive signs, isn't there? Ayr United have been terrific this season.
Yeah.
And I think a couple of weeks ago, people were going, well, that's them. They're starting to drop out of this. And Livingston had moved into second. And you thought, oh, well, you know, maybe it's a playoff place at best. But Scott Brown has never been the sort of guy who would say to himself, yeah, I'll settle for a playoff place at best.
Yeah.
And you kind of look at what Ayr are doing just now and you wonder, is his mentality rubbing off now inside that dressing room? Because if these players can take a little bit of Scott Brown's mentality with them, they'll go a fair way in the game as well.
Aye. Well, I just put that comment, that comment up again, saying he's transferred the attitude at Somerset, and it does kind of come across that way. That you know, they're never.
Does he transferred the attitude to
the players? Hopefully,
no, transformed.
Oh, it does say transformed.
I thought you were getting a bit caught up. I thought you were Scott Burns there giving us another transfer exchange.
I'm just obsessed with transfers.
I think there's an element of that. I think that he's a winner. Stephen Whittaker's a winner, and that sort of stuff kind of seeps out of you a little bit. And when you're in that environment, and when it's all hands on deck, and you know that it is a smaller club in terms of where Scott Brown and Stephen Whittaker have been before. I think they kind of thrive on that. They sort of roll your sleeves up, get your hands dirty side of the game. And if you're a player and you're looking at these two and you think about what they've achieved in the game, that can only inspire you. Will Scott Brown be rubbing his hands a little bit about the prospect of Hibs? Yeah, he probably will. If nothing else, he'll get to go and, see a few familiar faces and he'll enjoy that. But this is Scott Brown we're talking about. He's not going there for a day out. He's going there to
do the business.
Take a scout. That's what he does.
A few people, William, they're saying it might be a step too far, but I guess we'll see. I think it will be a close tie. Before we finish, Keith, I feel like I should reiterate our schedule for tomorrow. So, as we've said, we're always on at 6 o'clock. We will be back at 6 o'clock Wednesday and Thursday as planned. But we've got
ahead of the Rangers and Celtic games, and then we'll be here to discuss them afterwards.
Exactly. We've got a treat for you all at 10 p.m. Keith and I will be back online discussing, poring over the results from both games. Hopefully, 2 positive results.
I just sleep in this studio now, you know that.
Could believe that. You're too dedicated.
I've got a wee sleeping bag over there in the corner set up. I'll catch you tomorrow.
Excellent. Just before we finish, actually, Keith, there was one more comment I was wanting just to get your take on, if I can find it. Gianni, I've had Keith on the terrace outside before with the old Argentina top on, drinking a blush rosé.
I don't wear football shirts. When are you going to learn not to take this man seriously? There's nothing serious about him, not even his pizzas.
I don't know who to believe. On that note, that brings us to the end of tonight's Hotline Live with Record Sport. Thank you so much for watching, for getting
That was
involved
a
in
nice
this
comment
conversation.
from John Curry there.
That was lovely. I know. Thanks, John, for
Thanks,
that.
John.
Really appreciate it. We appreciate all the support from everyone. So thank you. We'll be back, as we say, tomorrow for a double bill. Hope you can join us. Thanks for watching.